Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Book Passage. Thank you for coming out and supporting your independent bookstore. We're so grateful to have the wonderful authors and speakers that we get to host here throughout the year. We remain a thriving independent bookstore because you come out to these events. So thank you for being here. My name is Melissa Sestaro, and I have the pleasure of introducing author and spiritual teacher, Eli Jaxon-Bear. Eli is the author of The Enneagram of Liberation, From Fixation to Freedom, and the editor of Wake Up and Roar. He teaches through the Lila Foundation, a wonderful nonprofit in support of world peace and freedom through self-realization. Today, Eli brings us the newly released and revised book of Sudden Awakening. Stop your mind, open your heart, and discover your true nature. In this new book, we gather the wisdom of Eli's teachings and gain new insights to this very essential and spiritual work. We are honored and delighted to have Eli Jaxon-Bear to Book Passage. Please join me in welcoming him this afternoon.
Probably like all of you, I was on a spiritual search for many years. My spiritual search started in 1971. And I went through the whole spiritual scene that started at that time, searching for a true teacher. And it took me 18 years to find my true teacher. And when I found him, it was the end of the search. There actually is an end to the search. We actually can wake up and be free. That's the living possibility for all of us. It's possible to wake. You can't hear me? Don't you like?
Use the mic.
Okay, it's hard to hear me. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Oh, good. So should I repeat everything I just said?
We're waking up for that.
How many people here have already been in Satsang? Would you raise your hand? Just let me know. Okay. Beautiful. When I started my spiritual search, there was no Satsang in this country. Nobody had ever heard of Satsang. I've been with all the variety of spiritual teachers. I met Swami Muktananda when he first came to this country. I was brought to meet him. Incredible power, incredible Shakti, but not enlightenment, not freedom, not satsang. In 1978, Kala Rinpoche appointed me the head of his Dharma Center here in Marin County, and I did the prostrations and the program. But no one ever spoke of true liberation in this lifetime. It was always about preparing you for another lifetime. It was about practicing for some day. And there were countless practices. I sat with the Zen masters in Japan. It wasn't about awakening. It was about awakening, but no one was awake, and no one was transmitting it. So everywhere I went, I was with a Sufi clan in Morocco. It was a beautiful, powerful experience. It was about magic, powers. It was magic, it was powers, but it wasn't freedom. The great gift that my teacher brought to the world is the possibility of a silent mind. And a silent mind and satsang, his gift to the world. So when I met him in 1990, I'd never heard of satsang. There were no satsang teachers anywhere that I knew of. We'd never heard of it. And now, through Papaji's transmission, everywhere I go, people have already been in satsang. All over the world, from New Zealand and Australia to throughout Europe, Africa. We had people in our meetings from Zimbabwe and Iceland and everywhere. People have already heard of satsang. This is revolutionary. It means it's possible to wake up and be free. But as my teacher also said, even a parrot can learn the words of satsang. So, anybody can speak the words of satsang. But the great gift is, it's not up to who speaks it, it's up to you who hears it. So that you can wake up from hearing a parrot. If you're ready. Huineng, who started the Sudden Awakening school of Zen Buddhism in China in the Tang Dynasty, was a simple woodcutter who had no spiritual practice, no background, just was delivering a load of wood, and he overheard some monks reciting the Diamond Sutra, which is the Sutra of Enlightenment, the Sutra of Awakening. And he woke up. The monks weren't awake. They were just doing their spiritual religious practice, chanting their sutras. But he was ready, and so he woke up. So that's the point. You can do your practices forever and never wake up. Practices don't lead to awakening. They have many benefits. They can be good for calming your mind or helping your body or whatever it is. There are multiple benefits of different practices, but they don't lead to freedom. If they did, it wouldn't be free, it would be conditional. It would mean you have to have certain requirements. But freedom is non-conditional. Freedom is absolute. That means you can't create it, you can't make it, you can't work towards it, you can't take a path that will get you there. The path will get you to the door, but you have to walk in naked and alone. That's not so. That's the capacity to tell the truth to yourself on the deepest level, and to stay true to yourself on the deepest level. So when I started my search, as I said, I didn't know what I wanted. I was a kid. It was 1971. I was 25 years old. I had just woken up with LSD. I was a political revolutionary. And I was looking for magic. I was looking for power. I was looking for something that could help stop the genocide and the madness in this world. I knew we couldn't do. I was an armed revolutionary, but I realized I couldn't kill anybody. And it wouldn't do any good. I knew the Vietnamese were right in shooting down the bombers. And if I was truly one with them, as I said I was, I should be shooting down the bombers. But I couldn't. And so something else was required. I was required to die instead of to kill. And so in dying to myself, I woke up to myself. And that was the start. Most people end there. If you have a psychedelic experience, you can bring on an enlightenment experience. But if you end there, that's not enough. It becomes conceptual. You become conceptually enlightened, which is the great curse of our spiritual times, the New Age religion. Is that people are conceptually enlightened. They have the idea, the understanding, the belief, the faith. And all that is an obscuration. The truth is what shines when the faith disappears, when the beliefs disappear, when the concepts disappear, when all ideas disappear. Silence, which is already eminent and shining, becomes obvious. And so the quickest, surest way is a quiet mind. Quiet mind, open heart. And you don't stop there either. That's the beginning, that's the gateway. Most people end with a belief of, well, I know we're all one, or I know it's just a story, or I know I have emptiness in me, and I know I have to remind myself to go back to emptiness, or whatever the spiritual concepts of the day might be, the flavor of the day. All of that is a way of staying in the head. All of that's a way of staying in the identity of suffering. In your mind, that's right. Then you have a spiritual identity as a somebody who knows where emptiness is, as a somebody who knows where silence is, as somebody who can return. I hear this over and over again. I just need a reminder. But it's only the mind that needs a reminder. Your true nature needs no reminder, needs no belief. needs nothing at all, since it is nothing at all. You can be yourself. You can be nothing at all. And that's the great horror of the egoic mind, is to lose my identity as a somebody. Because all of our conditioning, quite properly so, was how to survive in the world. And you survive in the world by developing a strong ego that is powerful, successful, knows how to deal with people, has a good personality. Those are all the characteristics of how to succeed in the world, and that's what we give our lives to, how to be a good mother, how to be a good parent, how to be a good... And we try to be that. It never works. You never really are that. You always know you're faking it on some level. I've never met anybody who didn't know they were faking it, unless they were really delusional. And so that's the egoic identity that's terrified of losing its place. If I give this up, then I lose my hold, I lose my position, I lose what I've gained, I lose all the work I've done to get somewhere. And that's true. That's the price of admission. All the work you've done, beautiful. It got you to a place where you can sit in this room and hear the truth directly. That it's possible for you in this moment to stop everything. To let your mind stop. To find the truth. To give yourself to it so fully, so deeply, that then there's no question of forgetting or remembering. There's no returning because you don't leave. That's your birthright. That's the possibility of being a human being in our time. That's the great gift that all of our countless generations of ancestors, from the amoeba, from the same DNA that caused the first cell to cause our bodies, same DNA, evolving billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of lifetimes of eating and being eaten and killed and being killed, killers and raping and being raped, and the horrors and the torture and the countless brought us all to this moment. Where the meaning of being a human is not just about duplicating. It's not just about replicating and surviving. It's actually possible to wake up and be free. It's not the body that wakes up. It's not the mind that wakes up. Multiple choice. Okay, being. Being doesn't wake up because being is already free. That's the paradox. There's no one who wakes up. Being is already alive and free, as you are. You are being. Emptiness is already alive and free. It can't become more empty. Silence is already silent. It doesn't care about noise or lack of noise, quiet noise, or just a spectrum in silence. Silence is untouched. There's this space in this room is untouched by whether there's people in it or not. The space doesn't care. People, no people, chairs, no chairs. Space is untouched. Just like that. That's your nature. Empty, spacious, quiet. And so waking up is not about someone waking up or being waking up. It's about the absence of sleep. It's about the absence of serving, sleepwalking. And we're all born into a sleepwalking world. A sleepwalking world of slavery. So my book starts out, chapter 1, with a metaphor of slavery. So if you can imagine for a moment what it would be like if you were born a black slave in the South in the 1800s. Your parents are slaves, their parents were slaves. There's no end in sight. Just imagine what it could be like to just know this is my life. I am a slave. I can be bought or sold. My parents were bought and sold. You never leave the plantation. I mean, if you make it into town, that's a big deal, and maybe you never do. And if you do, what's in town? It's a cotton gin. There's no reading or writing. You're not allowed to read or write. Someone teaches you to read or write, they could get killed. So there's no news. There's no horizon. There's no possibility. All you know is the plantation, slavery, and what's within a radius of a few miles. And you expect it's always going to be like this. Nobody's ever said there's going to be an end of slavery. And so you have to then make your terms with it. If you can, you get in the house. You get to work in the house, it's a much better deal than working in the fields. You get to find out where is the best place. Where can I live, but make it, where can I get the clothes? How can I manage in this world? And you do your best to manage in that world. And then one day, you hear a whisper. There's a freedom train. It shivers down your spine, a freedom train. That's scary. Well, what would that mean? Where would I go? How would I get there? What would I do? How would I eat? At least here, I know where I am. I know what the limits are. I know how to survive. To go somewhere else on a freedom train, who knows where it will take me? And what about all the relationships I've made here? What about my lover and the kids and all the stuff here? So most people don't go. Some say, that's just a lie. There's no such thing as a freedom train. Some say, well, yeah, maybe I'll be ready, but I can't leave right now. I still have some things to do. I still have something to finish up. I still have to do something. So I can't get on the train right now. But some, when they hear that there's a freedom train, it ignites a fire. A fire that starts burning in your heart. That won't let you sleep. Won't let you just go about the normal day-to-day. It's a fire that keeps you stirred up, unhappy. Suddenly, everything that you thought was livable is intolerable. You can't bear it another day. It's just too much. And so then, you're willing to risk everything to get on the freedom train. That's the ripening that starts. First, there's a spark. And the spark bursts into flames. And the tendency of the egoic mind is to squash it, to put it out, to put the fire out. To say, oh, that's not comfortable, that's dangerous, I don't want to do that. But for some people, the fire just takes hold. And then you risk it. And in risking it, there's a ripening, there's a deepening. Something profound happens when you're willing to put your life on the line to find the freedom train. You deepen as a person. So that by the time you get to the train, you're already a different person. Because you've given yourself to something beyond slavery. Then once you get on the train, you sit down, you put your load down, you stop. You don't steer the train, you don't pray to keep it on the tracks. It stays on the tracks or it doesn't, it's not your business. It's going to go where it goes and you're not steering it. You surrender. That's the next level of the freedom train. And so what the beauty of that is that satsang is the whisper that there's a possibility of a freedom train. And then satsang is the call and the train itself. And then satsang is the destination. It's where you end up. You end up in satsang with your own heart. Satsang means meeting the true beloved. Satsang means receiving the transmission of freedom. Satsang means a silent mind.
That's saying being one with the divine.
No, because that is a concept. So that even if it were the same, it's not that. Because every concept you have is an obstacle to your own liberation. That's the trap we have of being spiritually enlightened. It becomes an idea. So that idea itself is an obscuration.
Of divine.
Yes, of your mind. That's making sense of it and understanding what I'm saying and finding contemporary examples and finding what you've heard over here and it confirms it, or all of that, just a waste of time. It's a way of avoiding the essential. The essential is deeper. It's scarier. It's more profound and immediate. There's no wondering, well, is that like, or maybe that's because, or, yes, I see, it's not that. All of those are traps of mind. This is direct. My teacher said if your hair's on fire and you're rushing to the river, and you pass some friends, they say, hey, let's stop and have a cappuccino. You don't even have time to say no. You don't even think no. You don't even hear them. You just one pointed to the river. It's like that. One pointed to the river. The river is your own nature. It's your own heart. It's your own love, as love, calling you home. And if you give yourself, you put yourself on the freedom train. That means you give up control. This is huge for the egoic mind, to give up control. Well, how will I live? How will I pay the rent? What about the kids and the grandkids? What about who should? But then what? But how will I? But can I do that and keep the? All of those are attempts of the egoic mind to not give up control. Say, oh yeah, I'll give up control, and I also want. It's not that. It's more radical. This is a radical teaching. These are radical times. As the earth is dying, this possibility has been set loose in the world. This meme has spread through the human gene pool. It's everywhere now. But for most people, it becomes a concept. It becomes a comforting belief system. It becomes another fairy tale. It doesn't matter. It's only a story. This is just, I'm just spirit having a human experience, or whatever. And we're all one. There's no separation. I should be more compassionate. I've got to remember who I am. Try to just be here now. So you can't be here now until you know who you are and where you are. If you believe you're the body that's showing up in space and you call that be here now, that's the past. The body is the past. The body only exists in the past. It's always what was. By the time you hear these words and they get to your ear, it's the past. By the time you see me, you're seeing light waves that are emanating out, that hit your eyeball, that you then have to take in and make a signal. Take that electrical, make it a different kind of signal, put it through the processing system, and then say, oh, that's Eli sitting up there. It's past. That already happened. So you can't be here now through your senses. Senses of the past. Whatever you see or feel or taste or touch is always about what just was. So, to be here now is to be yourself. To be yourself is to be transcendent of the body, of the object. Includes it. Everything's included in the totality. But it's not identified as that. So your identity shifts from your body to your true self. Then you're here now. As you always have been and always are. You can't not be here now. Even if you imagine you're not here now, it's only the consciousness that's here now that imagines that. Even if you're sleepwalking and dreaming somewhere, yes.
What if you don't want to be here?
Then don't.
I don't mean here, but I mean,
Don't.
what if you have, what if you know you're somewhere, but you don't want to be there?
Go somewhere else.
But you don't really, you can't eventually just
See,
change it.
what I'm speaking about is beyond change. It's not about mental change.
You have to go beyond the world of duality.
He's giving you hints over here. He answers all the multiple choice. First, you have to know what you want.
So if you have to keep telling yourself,
Then
be
if
here
you have to keep
now,
telling yourself-
be here now, that means you really don't want to be there.
That's
Is
right.
that
I mean, you're just talking to yourself. Talking to yourself is a way of suffering. It's a way of avoiding what's real. It's a way of avoiding life. No matter what you're telling yourself, be here now, or I am here now, or I was there then, or what I really want is, or oh, this isn't right, or oh, I wish it were different, what it should be, or why are they, or why did I? What really should happen is, all that, just talking to yourself. It's nothing to do with reality. It's a way of avoiding reality.
What does it leave you with? I'm
Nothing.
sorry I missed the first 20 minutes.
Nothing. Leaves
So
you
we
with
are
nothing.
nothing?
Yes. That was the
Then what
first
do we
20
do?
minutes. But
Then what should we do?
nothing.
Oh, so, because I'm known as a great procrastinator, like I'm really doing it right.
No, no. Procrastination is doing something. No, you're not doing nothing. You're doing something. You're procrastinating. Procrastinating is a kind of doing. It's not a successful doing, but it's a successful procrastinating.
Well, I'm never really doing anything, and someone will say, quit procrastinating.
Yeah, well, you are doing something. You're wandering, you're thinking, you're imagining, you're fantasizing, you're watching TV, whatever it is you call it, that's all doing something. Right? I mean, you get this, that if you're fantasizing, you're doing something. If you're sitting around dreaming about, oh, I wish I were on this island, that's doing something.
But then, if we are nothing, does that give other people the power over us because we start thinking of
This is
ourselves
all,
as nothing?
this is really beyond the point. The first question for
All right, you
you,
go ahead with the point. I'll listen.
find out what you want in your heart. It's more important than life and death. When you know what you want, that's more important than life and death. Give yourself to it, no matter what it is, no matter what you might think about it. Everything else is just a waste of time. Until you find what you really want or are willing to live for it and die for it, everything else is a waste of time. And we don't have that much time in this world. Who knows how many breaths are left? We have a limited number of breaths.
What if what you want is out of your control?
Well, then what?
Custody of my daughter?
Yeah, so that's out of your control. And if you had custody of your daughter, what it would do for you? You'd still be suffering. And she'd be suffering too. It wouldn't end suffering. So if having custody of your daughter, what will it do for you? You examine yourself. What would that give me if I had custody of my daughter? And what would that give me?
Why would she still be suffering if she got her
Please,
answer?
please, 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 please. What's the answer?
I don't understand that.
Were you suffering when you had custody of your daughter?
No,
You weren't. You were blissful. The world was perfect.
very happy,
You were content.
very content.
Amazing. So rare. If you were really content, what does that mean?
I love my life.
Okay. And then your life slapped you. And didn't do what you wanted to do. So now what? How are you going to meet that? You fight for custody of your daughter, beautiful. I support that. And you don't get it, then what? How will you live your life from then on?
Pain, pain.
In pain. So if you live the rest of your life in pain, will that serve you or your daughter? No. So then maybe there's another answer that will serve you and your daughter. Because that's what you want, right? So the possibility is to actually meet the pain of the loss. But, okay, you lost custody and you're not going to get it, it's over. Then what? Then how do you meet life? But how does this pain actually serve you? That's the point. Because the pain is a teacher. Most people, their life goes along blandly, uneventfully, and then they're dead. They have children, and then they get sick, then they die. And what's it for? And your children will grow up just as neurotic as you were. And they'll be just as unhappy as you are. And they'll be searching, and then they'll have kids, and then they'll have a little of this, and they'll lose a little of that, and then they'll be dead. Who cares? What's the point? Do you even remember your great-grandparents' names?
Yeah.
You do? How about their parents?
No.
No. So where are they? What happened to their lives? They were real people who had their experiences, that lived and died and did the whole thing, and no one even remembers their name. It just keeps going like that. And pretty soon you'll have lived and died and no one will remember your name. And then what? It's still right. Well, he'll be dead too. Everyone dies, that's for sure. That's one of the guarantees in this game, is no one gets out alive. So then, what do you do with the brief time that you have? How do you spend it? As mammals, we are programmed to spend it by replicating and then protecting the family and then dying. We have to get out of the way so the next generation can live. We take up too much airspace. If all the animals never died, it would be just impossible. It's already impossible even when they are dying. So how do you live with these few moments? What are they dedicated to? What is your life about? We're all programmed genetically to have our life be about breeding and security. That's what life is about. You have a family, and then you take care of them, and then they take care of you, and then everybody dies. So there's something more. Your life can be about something greater than your own personal neurosis. You can transcend yourself. You can wake up from yourself. You can wake up from the bad dream of me. Because me is a bad dream. Me and mine is what creates the suffering of the world. We see the world is already destroyed, and we see that humans did it, and we can tend to blame the ones who did it, the greedy, selfish, ignorant ones. But that's me and mine. Every me and mine is greedy, ignorant, and selfish. That's the nature of it. It's about me and mine. My world, my survival, my body, my health, my enlightenment, my mind, my emotions, my children, my grandchildren, my family, my success, my money, my house, my mortgage, my car, it's all me and mine. If you just eliminated me and mine, you'd be free. You'd be happy. Your life would be a life of love. It would be a life of peace, a life of wisdom, a life of insight, instead of a life of me and mine. That's the choice you take. The egoic mind doesn't want to give up, though. It will always say, yes, but. Well, I can't do that. Or how could I do that? Or no, I'm not ready. Or maybe what's he talking about? Or that doesn't sound like what somebody else said. Or, well, I don't know. I heard somebody else say that you can actually have divine life. And what about, and you can go on endlessly talking to yourself to avoid the essential. And you can just directly find out for yourself, without any teacher, without any teaching, without any belief, what's true in your own heart. What's your life about? You know, the ancient Greeks didn't believe in an afterlife. What they found important is how people will talk about you when you're dead. It's called kleos. So, the brilliance of Homer is that we're still talking about the heroes thousands of years later. They won the game of life in that way. We're still talking about them. And so each one of us has our own life story that we tell to ourselves and anybody else who's willing to listen. And we change, okay, I'll listen to yours if you listen to mine. But what's transcendent of your life story? How does your life story become a teaching story? your life story becomes a teaching story. Man, you're in service. That's a life of love. So for the Greeks, there are the gods who live forever and there's humans. And the Greeks, the gods who live forever, are angry, jealous, rapists, basically. They're having sex with whoever they want, whenever they want. They're doing whatever they want. If they get angry, they can just strike you down with lightning and thunder. They're arrogant, they're rude, they're selfish, and they never die, and so they never grow up. Because they're not facing death. Humans, on the other hand, know they're going to die. And in that becomes the possibility of being a hero. That becomes the possibility of how is your life going to be used in this short span that you have. That's where we are transcendent to the gods, because the gods never wake up. We have the possibility of freedom, the gods don't.
That's if you believe in those guys.
Well, yeah, if you believe in those gods. But if you don't believe in those gods, forget about it. Still, we're still left with the same situation. No gods. But still, is your life, how will it be lived? You definitely will die. Who knows how many years you have left. What are you going to give it to? What's important? What will make a difference? That's the question.
Isn't that also talking to yourself?
No. Talking to yourself is different. Talking to yourself is a conversation about it. Well, that sounds interesting, but, I think what I want is, but no. That's the mind talking to itself. Your heart is speaking in silence. To hear it, you have to be very quiet. You have to stop talking to yourself to hear yourself. When you listen more deeply into the silence of yourself, you start to hear your heart. You start to notice what's been avoided. You start to feel all the feelings that you didn't want to feel. You start to get all the stuff starts getting flushed up out of the darkness. And you bear it, and you listen more, and you let it all burn. And you get to the truth of yourself. And then that speaks in wondrous ways. Your life becomes a work of art. Without changing anything at all, or maybe everything changes. But it becomes an act of service. Your life becomes an act of love. And that's art.
So if I could just put it to a sentence, would be in silence, listening to your heart,
Okay?
being in silence and being in touch with your heart.
Yes, find out who you are. One sentence. Find out who you are. The quickest, easiest way is to be quiet and dive into your heart. To find out. What happens when this body dies? Do you die? Who are you? What are you?
Well, if we don't get an answer.
Maybe that is an answer and you're not listening. You have to be willing to listen. Be quiet and listen. And you don't listen like, okay, well, no answer yet. This is a life and death affair. This is the possibility to die before the body dies, so that you wake up to yourself in a body.
Is that like ascending from your mind into your being, away from your mind?
You're so funny. I've got a million of them, I know.
Oh yeah, I've been through the journey for many years. I leave my mind all the time.
Yes.
I go into my being. And it's an incredible experience. I
So
enjoy
who is the one that leaves the mind and goes into the being? That's my
It's the
question.
divine connection.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So it's not me.
Oh.
It's not my mind anymore. It's my being connecting with the divine.
That's who's speaking to me now?
That's who's speaking to
The
me.
divine connection. What's the divine connected to exactly?
It's connected to the other dimensions.
Uh-huh. So the divine connection is connected to your mind and the other dimensions.
Not through the mind, it's through
No,
the
it's
being.
connected to
I
you.
have to leave the mind to get into the being. The mind will not
And,
allow you to
and
get to
who
your
is it
being.
that has to leave the mind is what I'm asking you.
Who I used to be.
Divine connection doesn't need to leave the mind.
No, but
But
the
you
mind
have to
is
leave your
blocking
mind,
you
right?
from the divine connection. So if you stay in your mind,
Who?
well, everybody's mind.
You said
All
divine.
mind itself.
Listen, mind is blocking you from divine connection.
If you allow it to, if you stay in it.
Who? Blocking who? Blocking you. How does the mind?
It's not blocking me anymore.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See, that's what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah,
It's not blocking me anymore. I understand what it is. I bury it every day and leave it
yeah.
and go into bliss.
Beautiful. So stay in bliss. It's beautiful. It's great. Any way you can stay in bliss, beautiful. Stay in bliss. Be happy. This is the way of silence and finding out who you are without name, without form. So if the divine connection has to connect something, it's already not divine.
But what connects us? How do we leave our mind?
You don't.
How do you wake up then?
By stopping this conversation, by giving up everything you've discovered on your spiritual search, by being willing to. I know you can transcend and you can go here and go there and leave your mind and have blissful experiences, but the one who's doing all that is called the spiritual ego.
Can I say something? I understand the ego, and I have been exploring it
I'm
for
sorry.
many years.
You're right on. Please forgive me.
And because I
I come
understand.
from a different state, so
I bury
I
it.
didn't connect yet.
Right.
You understand? I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
It's all balancing act.
How many people do you have to live your life with like this? Do you know other people like you?
Oh, of course. Well, my wife for one.
Pardon me?
My wife.
Do you experience bliss, sir? Do you live in bliss?
I am myself, and this
But
is
do
not.
you live in bliss? Let me ask you that.
You see, the thing is, it's not about living anywhere.
What is
what I
that
am.
what awakening is about?
No.
Is learning how to be in bliss?
No. It's not about learning how to be in bliss.
What is it for then?
To be yourself.
I am myself.
Beautiful. So be happy.
I am.
Good.
But I'm trying to help you and help other people
No,
to
that's
get there
I
too.
appreciate that. I really appreciate your help. It's beautiful. But I'm a kind of a one-trick pony here.
I see it. Too bad.
Yeah.
I use all the spiritual tools for
Beautiful.
everything.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, many years ago, we worked together, Eli, at Esalen, okay?
beautiful.
Yeah, dealing with unresolved issues, okay? Now, and recently had someone, I'm a chancellor of a university, write a book on spiritual bypass. So I've been working with a lot of individuals. Now, when individuals let go of the dream, okay, make the switch, is it possible to still have some, psychological bypasses?
Why not? Everything's included. The difference is it doesn't run your life. So to be yourself, everything's included. It's nothing to fight or change. And it doesn't run you. Because it's not about being in bliss, it's being who you are. And who you are is love itself. It's silence.
But we can't live in this world like that unless we experience bliss and bring it to isn't it part of bringing it back to this planet?
Please.
Bringing our peace of mind back to where we are.
Thank
Isn't
you.
that the whole function of living here right
Please.
now?
Please. Please. Help me. I need your help. And the way you can support me is by being mentally quiet. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, please.
I was told that sometimes truth is not necessarily going to be pleasant. It may not be the bliss that you wanted,
Right.
and you have to be willing to see it.
That's right. Yes, when you start out with relative truth. Relative truth is often painful. To tell the truth about yourself, your limitations, your flaws, your neuroses, your bypasses, whatever you call it. To see it clearly, without judging it, without trying to change it or fix it, but just telling the truth to yourself. And you bear it, you bear the pain of it. Each one of us has the pain of having been human. We have the pain of our flaws and our limitations and our defects of character. Each one of us has that. And so to see it and to bear it, deeper clarity opens. A deeper spaciousness opens that's deeper than your personality. It's deeper than your character. And you see through yourself more deeply. And then you see the absolute truth. The absolute truth is not people. It's actually that you fall off your chair laughing. It's blissful. It's happy. It's deeply, deeply nourishing. It's fulfilling. Such your life is fulfilled. Even in the midst of flaws and character defects, bypasses, whatever it is, you're already fulfilled. And when you're already fulfilled, then your life is a life of peace, regardless of the circumstances. And then you surrender more deeply. And you find there's this deeper current, this undercurrent, that's carrying your life. And you give it your life. And then you get absorbed back into yourself. You turn right side up. So instead of a somebody going somewhere, connecting, working, whatever it is, you are yourself as intelligent love. And your life lives as it does. Your karmic momentum keeps rolling. But instead of it being suffering, it becomes a teaching story. Karma becomes dharma. Quite naturally. When you're willing to give up control. Because that's the essential point. Every mind wants to be in control. Every mind wants to know what's right and do it, or practice, or fix it, or find it, or whatever. And that's the great challenge, is to surrender control to a deeper intelligence. Not to some teacher, not to some guru, not to some religion, not to a belief, but to your own native silent intelligence. And when you surrender control, it's terrifying. This isn't a casual affair. This isn't something you just, okay, well, I'll sit and listen for a while and see what happens. This is a giving of your life. It's not casual. And what you're giving back is nothing. And this nothing is fulfillment, is love, is intelligence, is your own nature, silent, empty intelligence. And when you know that that's who you are, nothing else is needed. And you can be as you are. And this silent intelligence speaks through your mind, it speaks through your words, uses your voice. And ego will be there, and ego won't be there. Anger could be there, and anger won't be there. Fear can be there, and fear won't be there. Everything comes and goes. Bliss comes and goes. Bliss is just a state. It's a state that arises from your natural being. It's not like you have to be in bliss all the time, and that's how you know. There's no have-tos. There's no rules. You can't learn to be yourself. You can't practice being yourself. You can just give up your practice. Simply give up the practice of being me. And then everything else will fall into place. Because being me is work. It's thinking. It's talking to yourself. It's stress. It's pressure. It's fears. It's desires. It's doubts. Confusion. All that is unnecessary suffering. So what we're talking about here is the end of suffering. The end of suffering doesn't mean you have to live in a bliss state. All states come and go. They're not permanent. Okay. Maybe I'll read you a little poetry out of this book. So when I have cancer, I have an incurable blood cancer, bone and blood cancer. I never had heard of this kind of cancer until I got it. And I was told it's usually, 3/4 of the people were dead within 3 years, and then the 50% of those who are left alive are dead in 5 years. So when I was diagnosed, I was in the last stage of it. I had broken bone, my spine had collapsed. I used to be much taller. I used to be as tall as Brian. My spine's collapsed. I was dying. And so when I was dying, I thought, well, what will I leave to the world? What can I say that will be the finish, that will give something? And so this is what I wrote. This was in the hospital in Arkansas. Nothing is real. Everything else comes and goes. Nothing is certain. Everything else is a gamble. Appearance is like drawing lines on water. If you try to walk the line, you'll drown. If you know the water as empty reality, enjoy the appearance of lines. Silence, emptiness, nothing, love, freedom, all lines drawn on water. Meet emptiness with silence, and all is revealed. All of life is a shadow play. When the full sun of love is unveiled, the shadows disappear, leaving only traces on water and overflowing nectar in the heart. Ages of belief fall away in the light of an instant. Shadows of superstition and faith disappear at the speed of sight. Touched with luminosity, there's no need for candles in the dark, for sweet dreams to lull babies, for shepherds herding sheep. The light of love knows itself without question or doubt. It needs no foundation or external illumination. It needs no theory, belief, or circumstance. It needs no prior concept or opinion for or against. The light of love stands alone. You're already chosen. You have nowhere to go. Simply stop here. Don't move, and all is revealed. Your nature is pure. Your heart is holy. Your being is love. Your song is a song of freedom. Sing it uniquely from the depths of your soul. Let love guide you and gentle you and heal the hurt and pain. Love is the nectar of immortality. It's the final gain. Love appears as grace and can't resist kissing you. This kiss is a fatal embrace. The mind is terrified of this kiss of love. The soul dances in full prostration at the good news. Which do you serve? Love is the master. Love is the student. Love is the teaching. Love is the realization. Love is a ruthless killer. Love takes no prisoners. Love demands full surrender, without compromise or deal-making. True surrender is a surrender to love, already alive and free in your heart. Surrender needs nothing and uses everything for its purpose. Be free and see. Serving love is love's greatest joy. It leads to insight, revelation, and abiding peace. All else is chasing shadows in the graveyard. Be yourself and see.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
How are you doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah, thanks. I had a chemo port put in, and I said, well, how long is that going to be in there for? And the guy putting it in says, well, 5 years of the life, or your life of your body, whichever comes first. But we haven't taken out a lot of them.
How long ago was that?
Oh, so that was put in 07. I got to take it out in 12.
Are you in remission?
Mm-mm. No.
You look really well.
Oh, thank you. The Walking Dead. Or the Grateful Dead. Well, thank you so much. This has been so beautiful. I'm grateful for you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.